call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Jurnosik,
Yeah, here.
Dre,
Here.
Horowitz,
You're muted, Joe.
Muted, but he's here.
Brody,
Here.
Melosh.
Here. All right, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry about that.
Since there is no correspondence, let's move to consent calendar items. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to pay the bills?
Make that motion.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
John, anything in the bank account balances we need to be aware of?
Just transparency. No, nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay. Let's move to department reports. Building permit report.
I'll give that one. Let's see, if we open the building permit report, you'll see that we collected a little over $16,000 in permit fees in the month of June, entirely for residential accessory things like sheds or additions or pools or whatnot. We've had just a surge in those types of requests. So Gary and Lynette and that office have been working overtime to keep up, but we really haven't seen a delay in the issuance of these. Pleased with that, but you know, everything on here is residential, and the takeaway is $16,000 in permit fees this month. Any questions?
In a normal year, what would those revenues look like? Do you know?
I think if we compare the month of June 2019, it was about $11,000 versus the 16,000. So about, you know, maybe 50% higher is an estimate just for the month. Now we haven't had big ticket like commercial permit fees yet, but we'll start to see those when Piazza comes in and maybe some others.
Okay. And then I see Charter Homes has 3 new townhouses being constructed. Is that still within phase 1?
That's a good question. That address there, Bow Street, I'm not familiar with.
I'm not either. That's why I'm asking. Because if you remember, Anthony was on last month and said he would, within 30 days, do the things that we asked him, and he's been nowhere.
Right. Right. I actually believe those are phase 2, Gwen. But I'll
I thought
confirm.
we weren't issued. Then we need to confirm, because we were not going to be issuing phase 2 permits until they complied with the things they were supposed to under phase 1, and we need a clarification on that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll work on that in the morning and communicate back out to the board. But just based on that street address, I want to say that those are in the new phase. I actually think the first phase is built entirely.
That's what I thought too, but we still don't have the commercial component that they were supposed to have under their phase 1 developers agreement. So they need to be accountable.
Okay. Yep, I understand.
Right. Is that all for building permits?
It is.
Okay, let's move on to communications and community development report.
Andrew,
Hello. Yes, I have a monthly written report and a quarterly report. The monthly, which is up most of the month of June, and since the last commissioners meeting, was spent completing the magazine, which was sent out this week, and people began receiving it in the post office. You can also see that there's a section added with kind of some things looking forward, with long-term project areas listed as was requested. And on the quarterly report, that contains a lot of communications data. John, yeah. And a couple highlights of note there. were in the second quarter, which was April through June, we had about 20,000 more website visits than usual, which were largely due to COVID-related topics, COVID itself, emergency alerts, things that had to do with trash and recycling changes, where can I find parks and trails, and of course, building permits, as John had talked about. And we still do get, social media is very active, particularly Facebook, which is where we get 95% of our references to our website from social media come from Facebook. But Instagram is becoming more popular. We've had that launched for just a little over a year now, and we have more than 1,000 followers at this point. So that's been a nice tool as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Andrea. Any questions for Andrea?
No.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I got that magazine the other day, and it was really, really good under the circumstances, and thank you for that. I thought it was really outstanding.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Let's move on to Park and Recreation's report.
Paula, you out there? Wasn't sure if I saw you in the crowd.
I did see her on earlier.
Sorry, I had to myself. I'm here.
Okay. Thanks. I'm pulling up your report.
Okay.
Sorry, bear with the slow internet.
That's okay.
All right, do you want to start, Paula?
Yep. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Or you want me to go?
Yeah, please go right ahead.
Okay. So this month we just worked on getting the parks opened. I think everyone's excited to get outside and have the playgrounds open, so that's exciting. The athletic associations have resumed play. That has included baseball and men's softball and some football conditioning. They all submitted plans and they've been reviewed, and we've been working on getting those plans all finalized. So that's moving along. We sent out, there's a picture right there, we sent out boxes, we called them Camp in a Box, to all the kids who registered for summer playground camp. Thanks to Washington Financial and Bob Garvin for the donations, and we were able to purchase the supplies and mail it to all the kids who registered for free. We have asked parents to share pictures of the kids, and those are slowly coming in. So on my July report, I'm going to share some pictures of the kids enjoying their boxes. They really, really like them. Other than that, Liz has been working on some other virtual programming. We should have some of those up live next week. Touch base with HRG. We're getting the playground site drawings finalized this month, so we can get that into DCNR for approval, so we could possibly start construction later this summer, early fall. Any questions?
The only thing that I wanted to add related to the athletic associations and their COVID plans to inform the board. We made you guys aware maybe a week or ago about a member of or a family member of a kid on a team that had tested positive. So one of the things that we did is we went back through those plans and asked the associations to include what their protocol is for if either someone tests positive or if they suspect that someone may, just so we had that protocol in place. So those have been amended since they were first submitted, because I don't think they initially
Correct.
included that element.
Correct.
And then the other thing related to the parks, I'm looking at the events and hoping for maybe some feedback from the board on. We had thought the movies in the park would be a suitable event to hold in Fairview. We had came up with a plan to limit the number of participants. It's a free event, but we were asking people to register on the website, in essence buy a free ticket, so we could keep a tab on the number of attendees. I think as of today we had 78 individuals that had signed up for it. We were talking maybe before the meeting started about the health department's order and the crowd size being expanded to 50. So I just wanted to see what everyone's comfort level was. I mean, Fairview is a big park. We think we can safely distance, but we kind of want to balance that with anything that might be coming at us from the county. So I'd welcome some feedback on that.
Yeah. I believe that county gathering limit of 25 is in effect till Friday, I believe. So that would be the day of movies in the park.
Well, I think today they expanded that 25 to 50, but it's still
okay.
than what we were anticipating. Do you guys think we should try to limit it to 50? You think we're okay with going over that number as long as we're keeping social distance? We were Paula had purchased some markers that would identify 6 feet apart and create spaces for people when they got there to be able to watch the movie safely.
Or we can always postpone it till September. There is one scheduled for August, and we could move it to September. Definitely open to whatever your guys' suggestions or ideas are.
I'd like to see you wait till September just because of the unknowns right now. And that's just me.
I'm sorry, how
I agree.
I don't necessarily think it needs to be postponed. I think Fairview's big enough that if the limit's 25 to 50, how big is the screen? You could essentially section it off into different sections. I think the challenging part with figuring this all out is there's no direction or guidance on how big the space has to be for the 25 to 50. So when you're talking about how many acre park or space, can you section it off into different spaces and you only have 30 to 40 in each of the larger spaces and still accommodate them in a safe manner?
I bought like little cones, and I was planning on spreading the cones out at least like 10, 15 feet apart on a field. That was my plan before the gathering limitations was put in place.
So my concern is that the movies will certainly have little kids there, and it's hard to get little kids to stay in the same place. And if someone gets sick because we had a movie in the park, I think that's really unnecessary, and it sucks, but it'd only be for 25 to 50 people anyway. So I don't know that going all that risk and worry to put it on is necessarily worth it.
So
but whatever you guys want to do.
people can make their own decision with their children. People will understand the risk that exists. And I don't necessarily think if we're able to put that on, adhering to all safety guidelines, it's not up to us to have to worry about, parenting people's kids. People know what the risks are in today's world, and I just think to not do it is just as irresponsible. But that's all I have to say.
Hey, John,
It's a way to do it completely safety, whether you limit it to 50 attendees and you completely spread them out all over the place, and then it's up to them. In addition, I could go down the street and get COVID, so nobody can prove where they got COVID, arguably. So I think we should still offer something, although it's amended and maybe small. I think it's very doable in an extremely safe and responsible way.
hey, John,
What's the date you're looking? August?
Friday.
Do this?
It's Friday.
Oh, there's already one scheduled in August, and then what I said is we can postpone this movie for September or August.
so we'll do August anyway, right?
Yes. So there's
okay.
There's already one scheduled for August.
Right.
I think there was
How
one
many
this
people typically attend, like on a normal basis?
Without registration, I would say about 150 to 200.
Oh, really? Okay.
So we did registration. So we currently have 78, and if we limit it to 50, how do we decide who can't attend?
Is it 78 people or 78 families?
78 people. We told everyone that each person must register, so I have an accurate count.
So if you had to break it down into families, do you know how many it would be?
Not off the top of my head. I have to go back and I can see based on names and make an estimate.
And when did registration open and when does it end?
It's I didn't put an end date on it. I set it at 250 max because that, when we opened up, that was the gathering limitations. I think we started registration 2 weeks ago, I believe.
You know, one thing that we can do, because we have the registration process, everyone that registered provided an email address. So if we wanted to continue, we could get in touch with the group and let them know that, you know, what the guidelines will, how the guidelines will be in place and enforced, and ask them to, you know, to exercise caution if they choose to attend.
So I have a couple of questions. This is just, what's the scheduled date again? Was it Friday or something?
Friday, yeah.
This Friday, yes.
Could we do it Friday and Saturday so that you're dividing them into two so you can get more people in smaller groups? Or can we do it every night of the week? What can we do to offer a minimum amount of outside activity for people in a very safe manner?
So I will say it does take a lot to set up. It's not a simple process. It takes us a full afternoon. It's a blow up screen with speakers.
So are we doing, so yeah, so what else are we doing right now?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that
I
last
just
part.
said, so what else are we doing right now? I guess I'm just trying to, I wish we could gear the conversation as how can we, instead of all the reason why we can't. And I say that, how can we safely, even though we may need to adjust. I'm sure some of our work has been adjusted anyways, as everybody's had. So I guess my perspective is, you know, I wish we could figure out a way that we could. And that was one idea, is to spread it out. And absolutely, it's going to take some time and probably a little extra work on whoever's part. But, you know,
Well, I think
it's
I mean,
nice for
certainly,
people to get outside.
yeah,
So
I agree. That's why we scheduled it.
It's 78 people. We're really not that far above 50. Could we cut it off since it's Friday? It's only 2 days from now. Cut it off and then create family boxes. So that's why I asked how many families. And you're telling me it's 78 people, but if it's families, we could create family boxes to keep them in, keep everybody away from one another. And we're really not that far over the 50 number in such a big park space that it could be safely done.
So just to be clear, I don't want anything to do with this movie. So like, if you're making a decision to have movies right now, I think it's a terrible decision, and I'm out. So whatever, if that's movies that important, go do a movie. I think it's a terrible idea. I think putting people together now for any reason until we know what's going on more, especially if the township sanctions it, it acts like it's okay. And I think it's a bad idea. But you guys, if that's so important to have a movie this week, I understand. But I think, you know, you asked what the risk is. I don't think there is any way to do it safely right now. And I don't think we know what the safe way is. So waiting 2 months seems like a much better idea.
I tend to agree with Joe at this point.
Are we still letting sports groups play and participate in the parks? Or has that changed? We shut them down too?
We did not shut them down. Baseball made the decision themselves to postpone play for a week until Friday to go along with the county gathering limit. That was their decision.
But that's gonna change tomorrow, where it's gonna encompass 5 counties and extend for 2 more weeks. That's why I'm asking. So I'm just trying to, if we're gonna do this, let's have some consistency across the
Can we do it in any type of, can we do it in any type of drive-in format?
It might be hard. The parking
part of
spaces.
that screen and the volume, like to get the sound.
Did the baseball team come up with a solution to what happened just recently?
Yeah, the player is quarantined for 14 days. They notified all families, and they canceled practices and games for a week.
For not 14 days, just for 7? I mean, I'm asking because every time someone's quarantined, it's 14 days.
Well, the kid was quarantined for 14 days. and they asked him to produce some type of clearance before returning, and they notified the parents. But they didn't cancel all their activities for 14 days. I think they just pushed them. They initially pushed them for a week, and then I think the order last Thursday came about, and maybe no, it was the same time. So I think they're scheduled to start again this coming weekend. Is that right, Paula?
Yeah, they'll revisit it on Friday or whenever there's another order present.
Are they doing double testing for the people that were affected by it, and or are they doing one screening or one test?
So it was a parent who was tested positive,
Right.
and the parent confirmed that they social distance and didn't come in contact with anyone. The child showed no symptoms, and they just told the kids on that team to monitor symptoms.
But the kid, the child of the parent, is quarantining for 14 days, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I get that there's viewpoints on both sides of that, and that's really why we wanted to get some input on it, So Lisa, to your point, could we have it and try to maximize safety? Certainly we could. Could we eliminate all risk? Obviously not, but it is a large park. So I think that's why we were just looking forward for tonight to get some consensus before we made a decision.
I mean, I know people have to get out, and I know we have to have solutions on doing, not negative things like Lisa was saying. We need to try and figure out some positive things. But with everything that's going on and another shutdown, I'm not a fan of it at all, and that's my honest opinion.
We want to take a vote amongst you five so we can see where the consensus is.
When we can. Beck, where are you at on all this?
I'm kind of torn between both. I think that we need to start to do something, but if it's a way that people are going to feel uncomfortable with, I would prefer not to do it. I don't know. I am kind of hearing it from both ends. I don't know. I'm leaning more towards not doing it just to be safe. So
This coming Friday, right, Paula?
Correct.
Yeah.
Anybody like the weather report for Friday night?
Good point.
Thunderstorms, 80% chance of rain.
Oh, wow.
The weather may make the decision for us.
Yeah, right.
There you
Yes.
go.
Yeah, I got the same thing.
my grandkids have tickets for Friday, but I'm hearing them excited to go. But then again, I want everything to be safe. So.
Yep. So a lot of my friends are in the hospital now with COVID, and a lot of my other friends are quarantining because they went to work this week. I think that a lot of people are sick that potentially don't know about it. And to have a movie now would be really not a good idea until we get a better grasp on this. I'm trying to be rational about it, but the idea that it's that important to have a movie this weekend when it might rain seems a little crazy to me. And if there are safe ways to get, I think people being outside is a great idea. And if we can set up safe ways for people to be outside, put music on, keep them separated, know they'll be separated, I think it's a great idea. But I think trying to rush into something right now when this many people are getting sick is a really, really dangerous idea, especially with little kids. And I know every single one of us would feel terrible, whether they could prove it or not, if someone who went to that movie was really sick 3 days later. And to show a kid's movie, I just think it's a good idea, but we would have to have all our boxes checked before I would feel comfortable saying our residents could go out. And I feel baseball is different, to be honest with you. If people feel comfortable sending their kids to play baseball, I'm not here to tell them otherwise, but I don't want to put a shiny magnet for little kids out there and say, you know, this is a good thing to do, and then it not be, and then we sit there and say, ooh, we shouldn't have done it. I think erring on the side of being smart right now is probably a good idea.
Baseball and the movie are the same premise. We're allowing the baseball teams to use our baseball fields. So if we're condoning that, then the movie's no different, Joe.
So my comment to that would be that I don't condone them playing baseball. I think it's a terrible idea. It doesn't say South Fayette Township, it's South Fayette Baseball Association. And those grown-ups are making a decision to put those children at risk. That's not my problem. However, if the South Fayette Township has a movie and somebody comes out and I find out that somebody got sick because that it's even a possibility so that little kids could see a movie in the park on a night it's supposed to rain, I think that right now that's an irresponsible decision. If people want to shut baseball down, that's not going to be me. I will vote yes to shut it down, but I will not make that motion. I think that right now is a very unsafe time in Allegheny County, and we should be taking every precaution to do smart things and bending over backwards. And again, I'm not going to be the one to tell people their kids can't play baseball, but my recommendation would be not to do it.
Well, it kind of is up to us because we decide whether or not they use the fields.
I mean, but they can use the fields. If the fields are open, you know, we made a decision to open the parks. I still think that was a good decision if people are going to be responsible. I can't make people be responsible if the baseball, I don't want to close the parks. So I don't think we can tell the baseball association they can't play in the parks, but we're going to keep the parks open and then maybe make a decision for the fall. I think we need to let the associations deal with the consequences of their decisions. But if I was the baseball association, I would not start back up on Saturday. And I don't think they will, to be honest with you. I think that the next couple days are going to be pretty eye-opening.
We kind of agreed to their plan that they had put in place to open up the baseball association.
We did, but the circumstances have changed since then too.
Right, I know.
They certainly have.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that we probably at the time never thought it was going to change, but however it did, and it is troublesome.
If the weather's bad, it might be moot, so maybe we move to just postpone and I don't want to snap to a judgment there, but I think that's what I'm hearing the group say.
I'm sorry I missed that. Dinner got a little delayed around here. What was that?
I just said if it sounds like bad weather is coming Friday and we're, you know, on the fence here, maybe we err on the side of caution and look to have a second movie in September as well.
Look, if I could pick a slogan for us, I think erring on the side of caution should be our slogan. I think it has been. I think we've acted very responsibly to this point. I think we waited to open the parks till it was responsible. We've made very responsible decisions as a township, and we haven't put our residents at unnecessary risk or our employees. And going forward, we just need to be that much more on point. Look, and I can't tell you how horrible a day I've had today. Like, two of my friends that I worked with for 10 years are in the hospital. So maybe I'm a little oversensitive today and you caught me on a bad day. But I don't think I'm being unreasonable. And I think that South Fayette should recognize the fact that COVID-19 is now a big problem in Allegheny County and advise our residents that congregating together right now is probably not a good idea. If they want to do it anyway, that's not on me, but that's just how I feel.
So in other words, the township organizing events until we should be following guidelines, but as far as residents or anybody else that wants to use the parks and everything, that should remain open.
And that's, again, if somebody wants to make a motion, I will be happy to vote on that. I think you know probably how I'll vote. I'm not going to be the one who makes that motion. Again, I think people are big people, and they've made decisions to this point to keep themselves safe. I think that they will just do things. The same people that would be unsafe in our parks are most likely to be unsafe other places too. So the people that will be safe, I don't think not allowing them to use our parks is fair to them. So my suggestion would be to leave the parks open. I think people need to be outside. I just think people need to understand that, you know, things have changed and being around other people is not a good idea. But I'd much rather them do it outside in our parks than inside in our restaurants or anywhere else inside, to be honest with you. So I think keeping the parks open is probably a good idea.
All right. Anybody else have anything on this subject? So because the weather report looks the way that it does, let's postpone until, let's just postpone, and let's not put a date on it. Let's just postpone.
Okay. Okay, we can do that.
Well, then you also have another item A under here. Discuss and consider a resolution designating July as Park and Recreation Month.
Yep, this is through the National Park and Recreation Association. They just they recognize July as the Park and Recreation Month, and advise all municipalities to recognize it. So that's just what this proclamation is.
A little bittersweet this year, but we thought because we're keeping them open and you know, we wanted to still draw attention to the importance of outdoor recreation in our parks, we thought it'd be nice to keep it on the agenda and to recognize it.
Okay. Do we have to take any action on it?
Paula, what is this, a resolution or just a proclamation?
It's just a proclamation.
Okay, so we're proclaiming July Parks and Rec Month.
Yes.
Woo! Yeah, I don't think I mean, if you want to,
That's fine. If it's just a proclamation, we're fine.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
That's all. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Paula.
Thank you, Paula.
Police report.
Yeah, the police don't have anything this month. Is there any questions or anything from the board?
No. None. Although I do like the new police truck. It's pretty neat.
I was going to say that it looks fantastic, and I had ultimate respect for all our officers. But again, I'm terrible with names, but our female officer who was in the magazine, that profile was amazing. I didn't realize she had that background, and we are really lucky to have her here.
Yes, we are.
Okay. All right. And let's move on. There's no old unfinished business, so let's move on to new business.
We have Public Works. I think Butch is on.
Public Works. Okay.
Butch, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Wow.
Welcome to
Missed
Zoom.
last month. Yeah. Yeah. I guess what I want to touch on is how well we've been doing with the COVID-19. We're spraying all the township facilities, the municipal building, the police station, and the public works building Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And every day.
Library also?
And the library. And every day we're spraying all the playgrounds, all the restrooms, the porta-johns, the pavilions, the picnic tables, the bleachers, and the dugouts at the baseball fields. We're trying to concentrate on everything. We're doing it 7 days a week, Saturday and Sunday included. We're also concentrating on mowing not only the state right-of-ways, but also our right-of-ways. We got a little bit behind on them because the guys that run the mowers were on vacation, and that's just the way it happened. We're also working on the storm inlets that we rebuilt through the winter, since we had a nice winter in the spring. And now we have to do all the landscaping, all the asphalt work that's coming behind them. And also last Thursday, July the 2nd, we sealed part of Cecil's Rising Road. It's the first time that we've used the stone chipper that we purchased. And we have some bugs. And the next time out, I think that at least the old bugs will be worked out. Hopefully we can get really good at it. That's pretty much all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Thanks, Butch.
Thank you.
Thanks, Butch.
Thank
Yep.
you, Butch.
You're welcome.
Okay.
All right, I'm sorry, Gwen.
No, that's okay. Okay, no old unfinished business. Let's move to new business. Item A, discuss and consider ordinance 2020-5 to accept public dedication of Parkside Drive located in amended parcel at Lakemont Farms, plan of lots phase number 1.
We advertised it last month. Remember, it's just a little bit of housekeeping. This would get it on our liquid fuels roll so we can collect money for it. But we've been maintaining it and caring for it for a while.
I'd make that motion.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item B, discuss and consider a motion to advertise ordinance number 2020-06, amending chapter 240 of the township zoning ordinance relating to automobile service stations in the township.
So this is an ordinance that right now all gas stations are used by right in certain districts. And the idea behind the modification to the ordinance is to have them be conditional uses as opposed to a use by right. This way we can take in other factors for a gas station that would include things like proximity to other gas stations, access from the highway, proximity to the highway, those types of things. Bob, I glanced over that. I know that you spent a little bit of time going through this. Are there other items on here that we should draw attention to the board?
Just some criteria for location of the underground tanks and canopies, construction requirements, and also some front side yard requirements for the building as well.
And the idea would be that these are conditions that the commissioners could use kind of in your tool bag, so to speak, when reviewing an application for a gas station. And you could choose to apply all of them or some of them as you see fit. So this would be for advertisement, so I know let's see, I think there's 14 things conditions that we identified there. I know you're just seeing this, so you might want to look, spend some time reviewing it. And if you had things to add, we could add it before it's adopted. But this would get something on the books so that we have a little more protection for ourselves.
Procedurally, we have to send this to the Allegheny County Department of Planning for review.
What do we need to do to get it started today, Bob? Just make it pending?
Motion to advertise.
Motion to advertise. I'd make the motion to advertise that ordinance.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Item C, discuss and consider advertising ordinance 2020-07, approving the entry into a franchise agreement with Comcast of Pennsylvania for cable television and related services in the township.
Thank you. Yeah, the board's aware that our franchise agreement with Comcast expired at the end of 2019. We've secured or retained a telecommunications law firm to help us with the renewal process. Joel Winston from the Cohen Group, I think, is on the call. Joel, are you out there?
Yes, hi. Thank you. This is Joel Winston from the Cohen Law Group.
I asked Joel just to touch on the highlights of it so the board could be aware of it. Ultimately, it is something that we would adopt by ordinance. So tonight we'd be looking for approval to advertise that ordinance and adopt it next month. But I wanted Joel to just take a few minutes and just run through the highlights.
Yeah, thank you. So just very briefly, this is an exciting time in telecommunications law. Obviously, the coronavirus has changed how people live and work and increasingly are reliant on digital forms of access for work and for entertainment. As you mentioned, there was an existing agreement with Comcast that was enacted in 2008 that has expired. So we have been in the process of working with Comcast to craft a new agreement that provides the strongest protections and rights to the township while also maximizing the amount of franchise fees that the township is entitled to. There are a number of federal and state laws that touch upon cable franchising regulation and create a broad outline for how cable companies and municipalities are to work together and to operate. Cable companies like Comcast are entitled to set up and operate cable systems, and in exchange for that, in exchange for the access to the municipal and the public rights of way, they are required to pay municipalities up to 5% of their gross revenues from cable video services. The amount of a franchise fee can be up to 5%. Under federal law, it can be no more than 5%, but it can be less. Here in this agreement, which is consistent with the previous agreement, we have structured it to pay the township 5% of the gross revenues from the cable service. So we have set it up at the maximum amount allowed by federal law. In addition, we have broadly defined what are gross revenues for cable services. Unfortunately, under the federal laws, things like internet service and things like telephone service cannot be part of this computation. Also, the computation only covers residential services and not commercial services for the purpose of calculating the franchise fee. That said, we have defined the pie, the cable services, as broadly as possible, including up to 25 distinct elements of services or products that are residential cable service related, so that the maximum amount can be included when calculating that 5%. We have also established a set of comprehensive and quantifiable and enforceable customer service standards. The customer service standards in here adopt the relevant standards of the FCC, but these standards are not enforceable unless they're included in the franchise contract. Some of these customer service requirements include telephone answering time limits, certain time limits for commencing installation and service interruptions, automatic refunds for certain lengths of outages, certain requirements for appointment windows for service calls, and requirements for notices to subscribers, as well as the federal standards of subscriber privacy. We have also included a number of right-of-way protections for the township, including protections to any damage to public or private property by Comcast or any of its contractors or subcontractors. And we have also included reporting requirements for those franchise fees and those payments. Those are to be paid quarterly. They are also to come with detailed statements that support and indicate where those franchise revenues are coming from. We have also defined the service area and made sure that the technical standards of the system are up to the federal code. And lastly, we have, on behalf of the municipality, one element of the federal cable law provides the township with the right to operate a public educational or governmental channel. These are the type of channels that would broadcast local educational events or sporting events or township meetings in certain instances. And for the township, there is an operational channel that has existed and been maintained, but the use of this channel can be maximized. So we are recovering this to the benefit of the township and making sure that if the township would like to exercise control and use of this channel, that they will have the opportunity to do so. In addition to the channel, it comes with, under federal law, there are certain requirements for Comcast in providing the operations for this channel, and we have reached an agreement with Comcast to provide a one-time capital grant upon the execution of this agreement. And the capital grant would be approximately in the amount of $16,500 based on the current subscriber count. This grant does come from Comcast. It will be provided by the subscribers in the same way that the franchise fees are provided through to the subscribers, but this grant will be paid at a one-time basis on the execution of this agreement. There are some other incidental things that we've made sure to include, like a performance bond, just to ensure that if Comcast breaks any of the caveats of this agreement, that they would be held liable and that there would be liquidated damages that would be immediately acceptable. And these are, again, just to make sure that the provisions of the contract are quantifiable and enforceable. So there are some areas under federal law that we cannot touch. We cannot regulate the rates that Comcast charges, and we cannot regulate the channel offerings beyond requiring that they adhere to the FCC requirements for minimum programming. If there are any questions, I would be happy to address them at this time, or if there are any questions in follow-up, I would also be happy to address those offline.
Yeah. I just want to clarify that this is for cable television services only. This is the only thing that we actually, we as the Board of Commissioners in the township, have jurisdiction over. So when we talk about cable, internet service and all of that, this has nothing to do with any of that, correct?
This authorizes Comcast under the Cable Act to provide cable services. The township cannot grant Comcast any more rights than are available under the Cable Act, and the Cable Act does not have any provisions for providing authority to provide internet services.
Thank you.
Yeah, Joel, thank you. I think, for me, the biggest takeaway is with the PEG channel. I know we've talked loosely about that with the board, identified, kind of the value that channel can have. So this will be a way for us to kind of regain control of the channel. We haven't been able to control the content on that PEG channel for a little while now. And more importantly, Joel was able to negotiate, a grant for us so we can purchase some equipment so we can, use it more effectively. So be looking forward to seeing how we can unveil that to the community.
That'd be great. Great.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to advertise ordinance 2020 approving entry into a franchise agreement with Comcast of Pennsylvania for cable television and related services in the township?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item D, discuss and consider advertising ordinance 2020-08, amending chapter 43 of the South Fayette Township Code.
I don't know, Gwen, do you want to introduce this, or?
I had been looking at this for a little bit and just had requested, after speaking with Solicitor Garvin, that we remove section 43-6.
Can you kind of just explain that a little bit?
Because after some conversations and some looking at some other municipalities and how they function and some of the things that we do as far as commissioners, I'm not happy that it just really removes our ability to really do anything.
Was this changed prior to tonight? I mean, was this something that's always been in the
It was added in 2016.
2016
ordinance? Yeah.
Was there, and excuse my ignorance, but was there a reason why this was put in back then? And then,
Yeah, Ryan was scared that commissioners were going to come in and do things, and he asked to have a little protection, so we gave it to him. I don't think we need it anymore. I didn't think we needed it then, but he did.
So basically, that was just added for Ryan's, on Ryan's
of mind.
behalf.
Peace of mind, I think. And there had been some turbulence, so it wasn't an unreasonable request, I don't think, at the time.
Yeah,
But I didn't think we needed it then. I certainly don't think we need it now. I don't think anyone's interfering with anything going on with anything in the township. In fact, I think everyone's working pretty well together.
Agree.
yeah, I mean, everybody seems to be working. I'm just asking questions because I'm not, up on this yet, so.
By the way, that's a compliment to you as well, Keith. I think you're doing fantastic. So
Thank you, John.
welcome to the board. This all happened really quick before we got to know each other, unfortunately. But
Right, I know.
it's been nice to have you around.
Well, thank you. John, how do you feel about this? Just for your,
I don't, I wasn't necessarily aware of Chapter 43 prior to this, so I wouldn't imagine it's going to change too much of the day-to-day stuff from my perspective. So I don't have an issue.
okay. No, I just, I know Joe was telling me Ryan had it put in and it sounds like you were unaware of it anyway, so it shouldn't matter if we get rid of it.
I don't think it makes any difference anyway, to be honest with you. I don't think John's going to go against our will anyway at this point. So I don't think we're going to make John do anything. So I think it's just a matter of semantics, but we don't need it there for sure.
Okay. I'm sold.
I'll make the motion to, what would it be, to amend that ordinance?
Advertise.
To advertise the amending that ordinance.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item E, discuss and consider reopening of the South Fayette Township Library.
Okay, so I got a request from library director. I think Ben might be on the call, so he can feel free to chime in if I miss anything. But basically laid out their reopening plans, and they have been following a phased approach. Initially, it was bringing staff back to get the library in order. I know they did some things physically to keep folks separated. They've installed some safety barriers and plexiglass and whatnot. Their first move, I believe, was to open the drop-off, the return drop-off. And those books are being quarantined for 72 hours before being cleaned and put back on the shelves. After the returns were accepted, they initiated a curbside program where people could identify books for pickup, and library staff would have designated parking spots and they would run them out to them. I think now what they're looking for is some input on plans to welcome patrons back into the building. And the document that they laid out kind of describes the safety precautions that they'll follow when that point comes. Now, Ben and I have spoken a little bit, and I expressed some concerns about the timing, just with recently the number of cases kind of rising, and with other orders being everything we talked about before, basically. So I know that this plan they feel can be implemented in the near future, but I think they're comfortable with the commissioner's discretion on when that could start. Ben, do you want to add anything to that?
John, I have one question real quick before Ben gets on. Do we have anything in our air conditioning system or heating down there that would help with some of the germs that's floating in the air or being passed around? Is there any type of
like HEPA filter or anything like
yeah,
that?
something similar to that, or even I know there's some products out there now that actually will collect particles in the air, and then every 70 days it cleans it off, and it's a one-time, and you don't have to use it you don't have to do anything with it. It's a one-time thing. leave it in there and it just cleans the air.
I mean, I think that's a good discussion to have in general, not just regarding the library. But
Well, it made me think about it when the library was talking.
no doubt. But how many people are we talking about staff-wise in the library at a time?
Right now, there is no more than 4 people, 4 staff members in the library at a time.
All right. Is it possible to do with 2?
We probably could cut down to 2, yeah.
I mean, I just think for your guys' safety, like the fewer staff that's in there, the better, and the less people coming in at one time, the better. I mean, if you really think it's okay for you guys to open the library, I just think, in my way of looking at things, the less people inside at one time, the safer it is. So any way you can limit the number of people, maybe have customers use that area we just gave you outside, and people can bring them books through the window or show them books. Do you want this one? I don't know. There's maybe some creative ways we could do it, but I think trying to limit the people in there right now is probably smart.
Absolutely, and that's definitely the goal. We're just trying to balance the needs and the services we provide with safety for both the staff and the patrons. It would be very minimal because we would not permit any meetings or any programming at the library. So it would really be strictly limited to borrowing items or checking out items. And then computer usage is one of the things that is in most demand from certain patrons. As far as being able to fill out paperwork or print things, fax things, what have you, people still do that. And it is something that we're missing right now. So it would be very, very limited though, because we don't want to risk anything unnecessarily as far as letting people back in the library too soon. And that's why the timeline is still kind of debatable.
Right. And again, I just think anything you can do to limit the number of people inside, and the more of it you could do outside creatively, whatever you do to keep, again, it's for your safety. I'm not going to be in the library. So I think you're the one who has to be comfortable with what's going on there. But if you were asking me, the more people in that library, the more likely you are to get sick. So however you can do it creatively and get people the books and get people the computers and you feel safe doing it, I think that's the smartest way to do it.
And one of the things, I don't know if John, if you want to address this more or not, but one of the things I did ask John about, I don't want there to be confusion if the library is open, but the municipal offices are still appointment only, or if the senior center is closed. I don't want that to be perceived poorly. So I'm definitely conscientious of that, as well as the shared bathrooms, because the bathrooms would be used by patrons and staff and the staff of both the library and the township. That's a question for sure. Hopefully the patrons would have much less of a need if they're not in the library long, but they do still need to be accessible based on the guidance we have been given at this point, unless the township would say otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I think my preference would be to maybe wait on the opening to the patrons, and at least for another 30 days. I feel like I don't know how the board feels, but I agree with Ben's comment about it. It might be confusing if the library's doors are open, but the front doors to the township building are not. But in my mind, I was thinking they would all be on the same timeline for opening.
Yeah, I just think to Lisa's comment earlier, now's the time to get creative. I think we want people to be able to access the stuff we have at the library. We just have to figure out the safest and best way to do it. And again, I work in the courthouse, and everybody in the courthouse is sick, and they let people in the courthouse and they didn't regulate it, and people got sick. So I think doing that's a bad idea, but if we can keep the library going and figure out safe and creative ways to do that, I think that's what we should be focusing on, kind of outside the box ways to get people their books. Even if I had to come down there and drop them off like I did with the food, there's ways to make this happen and without people having to walk in the library.
And we have been very successful with the curbside pickup because of countywide practices. Right now, it's just limited to items that are at South Fayette, but it should next week change over that people can start requesting from all over the county. So I think that'll start helping again. And we're still using caution with that and quarantining all those items and cleaning them and everything like that. So it'll just make to your point, it'll just make accessibility even easier, I think, still doing curbside pickup.
Ben, at the computer stations, are they plexiglassed off to create a separation between the computers? That's my one concern is that, yeah, books can be transferred outside and everything else, but there are quite a few people that use the computers down there and they have access for a while.
Yeah, right now, unfortunately, they have like the traditional study corrals. So there are little wooden barriers that have always been there between the computers. We haven't extended that at all with Plexi, but we could. One of the things we were looking at as an option, rather than just opening the doors, is very strict computer appointments. So somebody could come in for 45 minutes, one person at a time, so that social distancing would be very strictly adhered to, and the contact for both staff and other patrons should be minimal.
And that's what I was getting at. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Is there a way to lock the door to the restrooms that only staff can use those restrooms so we don't have public coming in and out?
But they have to have restrooms. It's part of the deal. You can't open the library and not give them restrooms. But that's what I'm saying, though. There has to be a way where we can get township residents computer access without putting our library staff at risk. There has to be a way we can figure this out. We're all very smart people.
Yeah,
So,
one of the things we're looking at, and we haven't quite gotten there yet, but we're looking at purchasing at least 3 or 4 Chromebooks that would also come with a Wi-Fi hotspot. So then patrons could come and check out that kit and take it home with them, and they would have a Chromebook and a hotspot at their home for like a week or 2, and then bring it back. And that way, it would provide some remote access for people who can't then come into the library.
or even let people send stuff to an email and print remotely if they need to print stuff. And there's all sorts of ways that it can be done without someone sitting there for 45 minutes. That all I'm saying is that I think it'd be smarter to try and figure those out than taking risks.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that as far as the timing on this, right now, Joe, to your point, there is the curbside pickup and folks are able to get books. The computer access isn't there.
My preference would be to figure out a way to get the computer access there instead of talking about definitive dates, because I don't think we know when we're ready to open the township building or the senior center yet. So I think trying to figure out how we get residents that are calling wanting computer access or their stuff printed, if that's one of the functions the library's had, then we should be trying to maintain that safely.
Can they do it from out in their car somehow, like with a laptop, and kind of just, if they want something printed, print it, and then somebody from the library staff would take it out to them?
Or even if
we do have mobile printing, so they can do that. They can send it to us and then print it, and then we would bring it out to them. And if they do have their own device, they can connect to the Wi-Fi from the parking lot and use the device in their car.
But I think some of the people using the computers are doing like personal documents and things that they need access to the internet computers, but they don't have it at home. That's what a lot of them are doing.
Right. So if they had a Chromebook, they could take outside and work in their car and have internet access. It doesn't matter that they're not in the building.
But then they touched it and then they gave it back to library staff who then touched it.
But there's always going to be some risk, but my understanding is surfaces are a lot less risky than being inside around other people. I think it's just proving out. Like we're all going to the supermarket and not getting sick, but the people hanging out in bars and restaurants and inside places are. So I would think there's always going to be some level of risk, and we're just going to have to accept what that is. I think the touchy risk is probably less. But again, if we want to provide services, there's going to be some level of risk. I don't know what the acceptable level of risk is, and I don't have to go in that library. So again, that's why I think we should be trying whatever Ben's comfortable with, man. He's the librarian.
I was going to ask.
I can only advise him how I feel about things.
So what's your anticipated date of making this go live, Ben?
Well, to be honest with you, originally we were looking at this month, the 13th, which obviously passed. And that was back in June when things appeared to be more stable. Now that it's gotten worse, I would be comfortable, like August 3rd, I think is the Monday. So maybe considering that as a potential date with the start of a new month. It's a hard, some libraries are letting people in already. Some libraries were and now have gone back the other way and not letting people in. So it's sort of a mixed bag of that timeline. But You know, yeah, like I said, beginning of August might be another benchmark just to consider.
Okay. I noticed that Bridgeville is referenced on these documents too, because I know that you service both South Fayette and Bridgeville.
Correct.
The library. Are they following the same schedule as the South Fayette Library, or?
Thus far, yes. They do still have their own library board, so in theory they could make a different decision, but we try to stay on the same page as much as possible to avoid any confusion with the patrons and when the hours in the library is available.
Did they identify a date in Bridgeville yet, Ben?
They have not. Their next board meeting is not for another 2 weeks.
Okay.
Well, this is not something we need to take action on, is it?
Well, I think Ben was initially asking about Monday. Is that a possibility? So,
Well, he just said now they're looking at August 3rd. They're not looking at the 13th.
Yeah.
Yeah, based on what, like talking to John and just the other county libraries and stuff, I definitely feel okay waiting a little longer before making a rash decision. But in the meantime, looking at those creative options like the Chromebooks.
Okay.
Does the board want to be part of that decision making before we say, before we say yes to the doors opening, or are you comfortable setting a date at this point in the future?
I think it's something that you and Ben can work out and agree on.
I agree. Again, you've heard our opinions where we stand, and
right.
Okay. Well, then we can tentatively, set a date in August, Ben, and then, keep working on, monitor situation and make a final decision together.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, Ben.
Good luck, man.
Thank you, Ben.
Good luck, Ben.
Thanks.
All right, let's move on to item F. Discuss and consider a sidewalk waiver request from BPM Land and Associates.
This is for the Estates of Lions Ridge. This is the housing development that's adjacent to Pinnacle Point. I believe they got their approvals 2017. At the time, the approval called for sidewalks fronting the school road in front for approximately 750 square feet. They're starting to build homes now. One home's complete and occupied, and the other home is under construction, and they're requesting a waiver to the sidewalk requirement. That was part of the approval process.
I'd like to make that motion that we waive the sidewalks up there due to safety concerns, and I think they have trees along the road right now, so the sidewalk would actually be the road.
Keith, can you give me 1 second before you make the motion, please?
I'm sorry.
That's
Okay,
not your fault. One comment. So much like that section of the code was Ryan's doing, sidewalks were always Ryan's thing for some reason. He had some dream about interconnecting sidewalks from South Fayette. I always thought it was a little far-fetched, but I don't think there's ever going to be sidewalks all the way down that road. If there is, we can talk to them about filling in this part, but I don't think that that we need to focus on sidewalks so much as a township. Only when they're necessary and viable should we be worried about whether people are putting in sidewalks.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion.
This is Lisa, and again, we all supported that back then, so I don't know that it was only Ryan's idea, but nonetheless, I'm curious as to what the safety concerns specifically are that they now have in retrospect for putting sidewalks. And my concern is this: while I realize that is not the entire portion of that road, there currently today are multiple people that walk that road, right? So why would we not want to encourage sidewalks there when we can and build it up that way? So I have a couple of questions. Do we know what their specific safety concerns are related to installing a sidewalk per what they agreed to do?
I was never a fan of sidewalks on any road. It doesn't take much. Years back in South Park, a jogger got run over and they put guardrails up. And are we going to allow, are we going to put guardrails all through that? That's my only big concern.
That's fine, that's fine. My question to whomever has the information is what this thing says. They want a waiver because they feel there are many safety and liability concerns associated. I'm curious as to what those are.
I can't speak to that, Lisa. I'm not really positive what their concerns are.
Okay.
I mean, as a lawyer, I can tell you generally, if someone's walking on your sidewalk and they get injured, they're liable. And if there's no sidewalk there, they're less likely to walk there.
So my second question is, I'd like to know what their thoughts are. If they're asking for a waiver, they should specify what those concerns are, would be my first request. My second question is, people currently walk on that road today. Do we think it is safer for them to walk on the road or safer for them to walk on a sidewalk?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Andy Blanco. If I could put into my 2 cents. We've worked very hard to try and establish connectivity along that road, asking every development that comes along to install sidewalks. There are sidewalks in the adjacent plan of Pinnacle Point. They lead right to the edge of Lions Ridge, and they stop awaiting Lions Ridge to pick them up and continue. If there were safety concerns, why wasn't this brought up by the developer at the time this plan was approved? And I have to agree, maybe sidewalks can lead to accidents, but walking or jogging on the road is going to lead to a lot more.
These sidewalks aren't going to lead to anywhere else. Once they stop at Lions Ridge, that's it, they stop.
The whole intent was that we would eventually have a continuous run of sidewalks, which we do have for much of that road.
That may have been the intent, but the possibility does not exist.
So whether it goes all the way or not, is it not safer to walk on a sidewalk for part of the road than none of the road for the residents that currently walk that today?
It's definitely safer, I would think, to walk on the sidewalk, yes.
I'm gonna try to pull up a picture if I can. Bear with me.
I myself don't think it's safe to walk on the road, whether it's a sidewalk or the road. That's my thoughts.
I'm trying to show you an aerial. It's kind of hard to see because in this diagram, there's only one house built on Lions Ridge, but you can see the sidewalk coming out of Pinnacle Point and then terminating right at the Lions Ridge entrance. So I think when your point is, once you get past where Lions Ridge is, there's single family large home or farm that is not going to put sidewalks in, and maybe another one before you get to where they pick up again, which would be around Forest Ridge.
And then at that point you have to cross the road to get to the sidewalks. It's not even on the same side of the road.
It doesn't necessarily matter. It's safer to walk on a sidewalk than on that road.
With no sidewalks, you have less people walking the road. With the sidewalks, we're encouraging people to walk the road.
People that walk the road today, we probably could all name a couple of them. Obviously, people can do whatever they want here. My opinion is this. I would ask that we understand what the requesters' safety concerns are. And then I would ask that we ask the residents that live in that area what they prefer. That would be my recommendation.
So do you want to table it for a month? What was that?
I mean, I think I'm not ready to make any vote on it. I don't know what the residents that live in that area prefer.
Okay.
And I don't understand why it's changing their mind now. And I think it's definitely an added benefit and a safety feature to that street, whether it goes all the way, whether there's a gap or not. That's my opinion, and that's where I stand. So I would prefer it to be tabled until we can understand some of that information better.
Do we have a representative? We didn't even check to see if there's a representative on for BPM land.
Yeah, no one answered any Lisa's questions, so I assume they weren't here.
Well, I can reach out to Mr. Matusik here and ask him to enumerate what his concerns are. You know, we can either you know, can submit it in writing, or we can meet and I can present this to the board. This is all I received, so I don't have that information.
And just to be clear, my comments on sidewalks were, I don't think that the connectivity that we dreamed of is reality. So if there's another reason for that sidewalk, I'm open to it. I just was stating that the connectivity thing that we had talked about for a long time doesn't seem to really be connecting, and I don't want to use that as the basis, but I do understand the thought pattern behind that, and I understand why sidewalks are good. I'm just not sure, you know, that we need one everywhere, but I'm more than willing to listen to their reasoning for this.
I've just always been opposed to sidewalks up there to begin with, so I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
That road's dangerous. People drive like crazy. Our family's been involved in an accident on that road itself because of the way people drive.
Yeah, well, I mean, anybody walks on that road or Oak Ridge, you know, I worry about, but I mean,
I do too.
They're making.
Putting sidewalks encourage additional walking.
I'm not a fan of sidewalks either. I'd rather see them on walking trails in the community, not along the roads.
Exactly.
Can we please ask the people that live there what their choice is? Because we do represent them. If they say they don't want it, then they don't want it. If they say they want it, then we should do it.
But why is it up to the people that live there? There's like a whole, 5 houses?
They use it.
There's only
Not
one.
just the
Only
people
one.
that live. If they live there and they want to walk up to the school, like why would we discourage that or make it not safe? Like we don't control what people do.
Because we should discourage it, because no one should walk from that place to the
But
school.
nobody should walk from Pinnacle Point to the school ever in their lifetime. Really?
I mean, if you ask the question, why we should discourage it, I mean.
The school provides buses and the school doesn't want them walking that road, even if there were sidewalks.
Right, but again, if there was a perfect sidewalk that went from Pinnacle Point all the way down, that lasted forever and it was safe, then that'd be cool, but I don't think that's ever gonna happen. And so at some point, they're gonna have to jump on the road.
But Joe, you have to start somewhere.
You see,
And we did start somewhere.
You see the kids riding their bikes on the road? These people do it today. Why would
I didn't
we
say
not
they didn't do it. You just said,
something
should
that
we?
makes it safer? It's not safer not to have a sidewalk, but I'm done.
All right, well, I don't need you to be done. I was kind of enjoying talking to you about it, but listen, so my question is, like, I have no objection or thought particularly as to this sidewalk. I'm just going, and Andy, I'm not trying to be rude to you. I understand you got to start somewhere, but I think that trying to jam, it's much like, you know, I feel like we're trying to jam a round peg into a square hole with connectivity that's never going to happen. And focusing, like if we could get a sidewalk waivers for them to build a trail that people could actually walk on, they might go behind that or something so they don't have to walk on the road and can get to the school safely. That's like what, you know, that's how I think might be more important than connectivity. I'm not trying to make that decision for the board. I'm just saying that based on me being here around for a while and hearing sidewalk for a long time, not too many people are out walking on sidewalks on South Fayette, and we've spent 6 years trying to improve it. So it's not like you got to start somewhere. We did start somewhere. And I'm just bringing it up. Is that something that we want to continue, or do we want to try and focus resources on other things that developers could do rather than put in a sidewalk? I have no problem asking those people if they want a sidewalk. But again, I don't know. I feel like I think the question, the reasonable part of the question is, if they're going to send us a letter and say that they have these concerns, they should outline what the concerns are. And I think that's a very reasonable point, and I don't have a problem honestly, it's not going to change anything in a month if we don't let them build the sidewalk, or they have to build the sidewalk. So I think I don't have a problem tabling, but I'm only one vote. So if Lisa has a motion, I'll second it, and then we can vote on it. And then if someone else has a motion, we can do whatever.
John, what year was this plan approved from these guys?
I want to say 2017.
Okay, thank you. I'm making a motion to table this for right now.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion passes. All right, public comment?
Send him a message, send him a text, say, I didn't even get a chance to call.
What was that?
My buttons are going crazy. So no public comment at this time? Seeing none, let's move to board discussion. Any board discussion? Managers report?
Okay, I'll be brief. I covered most of my stuff got covered through our meeting here. The only thing that I probably should comment on, we've been trying to track the loss of revenue or potential loss of revenue through from COVID. And last month I gave you a report that showed our earned income tax by month. And at that point, understanding that the revenues lag by about 30 days, we looked at the data we had for the month of May, and it showed about a 10% reduction from 2019 numbers. And so we recognized that was something worth monitoring. So the month of June has wrapped up, and we did collect 99% of 2019 revenues, which is a good sign that the numbers went up from where they were. Doesn't necessarily mean we're out of the woods, so to speak, as the lasting impacts of it are kind of hard to predict. My goal was to get this to you today, but unfortunately, this July 8th meeting came about as quick as it possibly could with the second Wednesday. But I want to do a mid-year budget review whereby we would look at every line item in the budget and give you a June 30 actual and then a projection for the rest of the year so we could get a sense of where we believe we're going to end the year. So I hope to have that out to the board within another week or 10 days or so. And that should give us a better indication of how the potential loss of revenue is impacting us. But the good news is month of June did creep back up as compared to where it was the month before.
John, just one thing. So, I mean, to me, that makes perfect sense because in May, I didn't have any income because I couldn't work. And in June, I did. Luckily, some of the courts are going virtual, so it looks like I'll still have a job in July. But other people, if they go back to yellow or red, that's probably the 10% difference. So I think factoring that in is probably wise.
Yeah, and it is a little difficult because it's hard to really pinpoint when earned income revenue is received, like what it represents, and kind of a good rule of thumb is it's probably lags 3 to 4 weeks behind. So stay tuned because July is an important month. Some self-employed people do pay quarterly, so July might be a time when we could really see if there's an impact.
All right, thanks for keeping us updated.
Yeah. Hey, lastly, I just wanted to mention that, one of our priority projects this year was the municipal complex. We made a lot of progress on that, closed on the property, finished up our due diligence, selected an architectural firm to help us with the design. The current environment has made us kind of pause how we move forward, but seeing that it's important to us, we have made some steps here to get the planning process off the ground. The architects that we selected plan on spending a day and a half in the township next week, and we're trying to find a way to get the board together with them in a big space so we can keep distant, but to get give you guys the opportunity to talk about what your priorities are for the building, what your vision might be for it, and get in the head of the designers at an early phase. So we do have something on the books here for next Tuesday, the 14th, after work hours. The folks at Waldron Financial were kind enough to let us have the space in their boardroom, which is very large, and they'd be gone for the day. I sent a note out to you guys last week. I'm hoping that you can make it. We are going to keep that meeting small, largely because of COVID. But it won't be the last chance that you'll have to interact with these folks. So if you're uncomfortable or if you're unable to make that date, there will be other opportunities for you. And
So John,
yeah.
again, I hate to keep jumping in, but there's things that come to my mind. When I went to, I did a Zoom thing about oil and gas recently, and one of the commissioners from Forest Hills was on. She informed me that they built a zero net energy building in Forest Hills. I don't know if that's possible here, or something that we could consider, but it sounded like a neat idea. It's totally solar powered, and they're actually making money instead of paying for all their electricity. So
yeah, I took a tour of that.
Them.
It's really impressive. I have seen that building. So yeah, those are some of the things that we get on the table. It's how important is energy efficiency. Do we want to think about, a LEED certification? Those kind of things should be had at the front end of this. So those are discussions we're going to be looking to have over the next days with you guys.
All right. If you are hoping for me to come to a meeting, I'd ask that it be outside. I won't go inside to a meeting and stay there.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that, Joe. I do.
Either that, or could we do a Zoom meeting like this if people, that want to be a part of it can still be a part of it without actually being there?
I think that's possible. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I don't feel comfortable inside either.
Okay, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I have. I am going to request an executive session to talk about a few other items, but as far as my report, that's all I have for tonight.
Request tracker items submitted.
Most of the request tracker items were related to questions about trash not being picked up. We also had a number of, with the road program starting up, a number of calls about paving and driveways and curbs and whatnot. So that made up the bulk of the concerns for June through July.
All right, solicitor's report.
Just for informational purposes, on Friday at 10 a.m., there's a Skype meeting with District 11, Michael Simmons, the permit manager, regarding regarding the Newberry HOP and some of the outstanding items and bonding. I'm going to try and determine what PennDOT's expectations are for completion of certain traffic signals and how that's going to tie in with the development in Newberry and how we're going to address future development agreements for that project. So that'll be Friday at 10 a.m. and I'll report back to the board on the results of that meeting afterward.
Is that meeting on Zoom?
This is a Skype link they gave to us.
Would it be okay for me to sit in on it if I was curious, or is it something that I shouldn't be a part of?
No, I think it's fine.
Right. I mean, if the board doesn't mind, I wouldn't mind hearing what's going on there. I'm always kind of been curious how that works. So if you don't mind, I would like to sit in.
Not fun.
What? Not fun. I know I probably won't last very long.
Yeah, we can send the link out. Anyone who wants to participate can.
Okay.
That's it. Motion to adjourn to executive session, not to return, John?
Not to, no reason to return.
Okay,
Are we going to send out a new link for executive session? Is that the plan?
you did already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can, yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. Like I said, I was having a lot of trouble getting on this one, so I'll figure it out now easier.
Okay.
My new computer had a battle, Google versus Microsoft, and apparently whoever makes Zoom was the wrong one, and they lost for a minute, but we got there.
Okay,
All right. Well,
I'll make that motion.
thank you.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I'll see
Cool.
everybody shortly.
Bye.
Good night.
Right.
All right, everybody.